Gilmore, Jenkins, Part 11 Engineering, Office 259 or 101 South Park Avenue, Iowa Falls. Got a lot of stuff to show you, and I will do this as efficiently as I can. I think between Tom and Doug, we're well aware of where the location of this property is. We talked about it in March. And as you know, we were tabled, and there were two reasons given why you as the commission, when the motion was made. One was that we did not have all of our agency review responses, and the other was additional information. It was kind of broadly stated, and we met with your staff to discuss what additional information we needed to find together, get together. We wanted to do this right. We weren't missing last time. So I would like to start with the agency correspondence letters. And we have been working on these for a long time. We started working on these clear back with the sketch plan, which was back in December of last year. And we sent mailers to certified mail that say they were received or get the post office and were noted that notice was that they were ready to pick up, and they weren't picked up. So we proceeded to call and email and chase down who the responsible parties of these different agencies were, and that we needed to get some kind of response from them. There were hours of effort put into this, and it resulted in a lot of agencies admitting that they didn't reply. They deleted the email because they didn't think they needed to. They didn't think it was something that had to be done. They saw it as something that was just coming across their email that they really didn't care about for whatever reason, whatever it was. And we pestered them, and I did, and our secretary pestered them until we got at least no comment, or we have no comment at this time, or hey, when you get further on, submit your stuff with the applications and review it correctly. And this is what I printed off, which is the responses with whatever immediate notification they received attached to it. If I had printed everything that we sent out, it would be 2 or 3 times bigger. So we went through that effort. We have met that. The very sensitive, and I recommend that the county put out a bulletin to all these people that says this is required by our code. Need to respond. Slow things. The other thing was is the master plan. I just pulled this code. I'm not going to read it. But essentially, the master planning section of your code is a agglomeration of references to other parts of your code, and it just asks you to consider all of the parcels alone and what you may or may not decide to do with them. So we proceeded to update the materials that we submitted last night to bring them up to that master plan standard to show all of the property that is owned by the county. But on the screen, I have the master layout that is just a general layout of here is what is currently planned. It's 2 divisions for that are part of the preliminary plat that we have submitted. And it shows the remainder, and in the remainder, we have that easement that will be required for that secondary access. And as said, there is no current plan for that remainder parcel. That would be made down the road. It might remain a farm, it might remain pasture ground, it might remain something else that conservancy might be something. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Right now, there's no. So we updated our site context map to show the things that the site context map asks for in your code on both the 160 acres that our application is about and that remaining parcel. And I hope that you've had the time to look at that. We updated our existing resources map and we spread it out into more pages because now we're looking at more property. It's harder to get the level of detail on there for each of the things that are asked. There's quite a number of things asked for on existing resource map. There are 17 total pieces of information that we were required to show. We spread it across the 5 pages, and the information is there as far as we were able to collect and get and correlate with the studies that we've performed. So that has been updated to be more in line with that master concept. These are the remaining pages. Again, I'm not going to go through them. I hope you have had the time to read the pieces. Have them available to you for a while. So we also updated our preliminary plat sheet. Added a few more notes. Added some more details for easements that preserve the irrigation use that currently exists on that eastern side. We tried to make it a little more clear, and we made sure that it had the information on it that your code requires. And we reviewed those requirements with your staff to make sure that we didn't miss something, and we brought it back to them. The preliminary improvement plan is in your code effectively to be preliminary plat with a couple additional pieces of information. And we were not missing anything on this document. This document that showing presented. And the things on this layout will be fully engineered and designed with sewer, stormwater items when we get past this stage of the Oh, the preliminary open space map received a couple of updates as well in order to make sure that it was in line with the things that included in his covenants. The wildlife plan, he mentions we preserve on this map. We showed a line where that approximate location for that delineation of that preserved area would be. And we updated our notes and our tables to make sure that our percentages and everything were reflected correctly, and to make sure that we were meeting that minimum open space that is required by the rural base zone. And I would like to close well, that's not true. I'm not closing my statement. Some of the other things on updating these documents we had to do. But I'm just going to lift them up here and drop them on the floor because I'm not looking through these. So we have the study aquatic resources delineation report done by TASE in part of our applications. That we did up front to make sure that we knew where the wetlands would be so we could correctly identify those on our preliminary plat, do our best to account for them in how we lay things. So there's that 300-page document. One of the things that we were missing for the master plan section of the code was the covenants and restrictions. And in the covenants, make sure that they will be recorded, and every homeowner that comes into this development will be able to find it. They won't be able to say they don't know. Doug included wildlife plan, wildfire plan, and also comments about landscape it needs to be there, which in this area it's been recommended that we see native materials. Oh, that's in the covenants. We have that document.
It's hard to hear.
I'm doing my best. Thank you for letting me know.
Oh, I'm pretty sure mine has
Same problem.
with stop marks.
We'll hang it like that. Maybe that'll help. So with our preliminary improvement drawing document, the code asks for a preliminary development agreement to have been submitted. When we came in March, we had no issue with the boilerplate template development agreement, and we still don't, but we have submitted that boilerplate development agreement with the correct lines filled out, the development name, number of lots, and the other required items in there. So that has been completed. One of the other items in code, not specifically mentioned in the master plan section of the code, but it is in the code, was the nutrient pathogen study. And me and HLE have been doing groundwater analysis in the season when we can get in there. And that information was used as part of this, but we have, that study has been, a draft of that study has been completed and was submitted for your consideration. One of the other requirements is a stormwater plan. And your code lines out several requirements that are essentially taken directly from previously EPA controlling Idaho went down to EQ from their requirements of what should be in the stormwater pollution prevention. And we have prepared one of those. The stormwater pollution prevention plan is an excellent template for stormwater. It is designed to set up plans for how to handle stormwater and sediment control during construction, and how to hand that over to the owner of the project once construction is done. And at any time, a notice of transfer can be filed and transfer that responsibility to maintain the controls that are required to be set in place to the HOA when there's not people like the HOA to function. So in the stormwater pollution prevention plan that we submitted a letter that lines out the requirements from your code and how this meets. And that is the third page in the document. So we had our work cut out for us in March, and you feel like we've prepared missing information. And I appreciate the time that it's going to take, or has taken in March, but it took us a lot of time to prepare. And we've done the best that we can to make sure it's all there. I would like to close by reading a section from the rural-based zoning ordinance.
A little louder, please.
So the rural-based zone is established. It's been established in your code. It says to provide the continued use of agricultural lands, drainage lands, and wildlife management areas. And I would like to point specifically to item number 3 in this ordinance, where it says to implement the Fremont County Comprehensive Plan goals to protect important agricultural land and maximize opportunities for agricultural activities and agricultural lifestyle in areas designated as rural comprehensive plans. I would like to contend that the layout that Doug has worked with his engineer and surveying company to lay out will provide opportunities for people who want to come into this area and have that agricultural lifestyle. That is not succeeded by clustering 1 acre lots and leaving the rest in jointly controlled open space. I grew up farming myself personally, and that really doesn't matter to this. But I have got in my experience of farming, 1 acre, I guess you got apartments and chickens, maybe a horse and walls keeping. And you need to really get into the lifestyle more than that. And the layout we provided, the smallest lot is over 2.5 acres. And the final plat, maybe we adjust some things and get it closer to 3 plots. Just as a preliminary plat, these lines that are final with room for some massage in this to make a competitive product. With your recommendations, you have conditions of your approval, and with recommendations of the staff, as we move on to the next phase after your approval in this application. I think that the care that the developer put into trying to carefully word his covenants to protect that land privately owned and maintained under the dictation and control of the HOA, make sure it's not just turned into a weed patch and ruins. I think has been very important. Yeah, I request that, as always, that you find that we have, I hope that we have met all the requirements of the approval. And let's, I appreciate your time. Any questions for me? Get off the kind of tired way. Thanks.
So, got something else to speak of? Yes. We're going to go on to the public hearing. And I'm going to ask you nicely not to interrupt again. We do, and we have called the sheriff to be here. We won't mess with you. It's not fair to anybody on this commission or anybody in this audience or these people who got go on. So we will have the sheriff here. Be nice. The way we do this, and each person who comes up and speak, and I have a list of you. Each person who comes up to speak will give me your name. Actually, you're giving Karen down there your name and your address. And I will interrupt you if you don't do that. That's important to us to know where you're coming from, basically. And then you have 3 minutes, which he said here is kind of written on his time. And she will warn you, or you'll hear it deep and you'll know you're warned that you're about done. If you do have somebody out there who will add you 3 minutes, if you're out there and you're going to add and you know you're going to have 3 minutes, you must give us your name immediately upon offering that time so that we can make a note on here. Because once you do that, you can't speak. You're done. Okay? And if you're not on this list right now, you're done. From anything. Be quiet, be respectful, turn off your phones, and listen to them. Listen to these comments because they're an example. You have some passionate people speaking. All right, our first one is Richard Moss.